Thank you. I'm very glad to be here today to talk to you about what I believe is one of the more important topics in mobile, and that is mobile security. For a long time, this was the typical welcome package a newly hired employee saw on their first day at the job. You received your laptop, security badge, paperwork, and of course, a corporate-issued BlackBerry, viewed as both a perk and a status symbol. BlackBerry, we used to call them Crackberry, had earned a well-deserved reputation as the corporate standard for secure wireless. The device was locked down, preventing the installation of potentially insecure or unapproved applications. That's why the government and even the President of the United States used one. CIOs could rest assured their sensitive corporate data was safe, and the control provided by this corporate-owned model created this sense of comfort and safety. Unfortunately, that control is slipping away. Today, work and home life are merging. The consumerization of IT means that IT departments must deal with employees increasingly using their own devices at work. Smartphones and tablets used for instant messaging, social networking, while providing access to corporate email, applications, and data. Gone are the days of the buttoned-up corporate network. In fact, a recent survey of 600 IT and business leaders found that 95% of companies allow employee-owned devices on the corporate network. Under this new model, the onus shifts to the individual user to make the right decisions when it comes to the safe use of smartphones and tablets. And like it or not, the problem is only going to get bigger. The number of smartphones around the globe will continue to accelerate, growing to nearly 2.4 billion this year, up 25% year over year. That's about 1/3 of the world's total population. By 2017, that number will grow to more than half of all the people in the world. In other words, mobile is just getting started. Nearly 1 billion of those devices will find their way into the corporate environment by 2017. There's little doubt the smartphone will soon become the primary device for accessing information in the workplace. And while BlackBerry's enterprise-friendly operating system may still be considered the most secure of the top mobile operating systems, its market share has retracted dramatically, being replaced by Android and Apple's iOS. It may be unfair to say that these platforms are less secure, but it would be appropriate to say that they are the most exploited. And that's especially true for Android, which is generally more fragmented due to a variety of active versions combined with a broad mix of hardware. In short, those days of complete control are over. While this BYOD environment brings significantly more variability in hardware and operating systems, this is only the first of several new challenges. The next challenge is the proliferation of cloud computing. CIOs have relied on network perimeter security for almost 2 decades. The perimeter firewall was the central point of defense on the boundary between the corporate network and the internet, protecting it from dangerous and unwanted intrusions. Mobile significantly impacts the perimeter security model by blurring the definition of that perimeter, both in terms of physical location and asset ownership. For some time, enterprises attempted to close these gaps by forcing remote traffic through the perimeter security appliance with the use of a VPN. However, in a BYOD environment, users may perceive that corporate VPN as an intrusion into their privacy, since personal traffic may also be routed via the corporate security software. In addition, IT administrators don't want the overhead or the liability of personal traffic on their networks. As a result, user adoption of VPNs has been falling dramatically. Moreover, as the enterprise data moves to the cloud, network traffic inherently bypasses perimeter firewalls, leaving a gaping security hole. Sensitive data once held securely inside the perimeter is now stored outside of sanctioned networks. Gartner refers to this as the trust boundary. The trust boundaries change as applications move from internal networks to data centers to untrusted zones in the public cloud. There's no doubt that enterprise demand for cloud-based services will continue to grow. Salesforce, Gmail, Google Drive, Box, Dropbox, to name a few. The first line of defense is no longer that perimeter firewall, it's the user. In this new world, cyber criminals are using mobile apps as a point of entry into the smartphones and tablets, positioning them to steal corporate data. According to a recent report, 38% of smartphone users have already been a victim of cybercrime. Here's some real-world examples of the threat. Mobile ransomware. Mobile ransomware holds a device hostage until a ransom is paid. We came across this family called Scare Package last month. It masquerades as a well-known app, usually any number of antivirus apps, and pretends to scan your phone upon launch. After completing a fake scan, it locks the device, rendering it useless, and coerces the user into paying for the app. You can't navigate away, and if you try to reboot, this fake FBI message will be the first thing you see when the phone turns on. Scare Package demands several $100s in money-packed voucher to release your phone. Within 1 month, we saw nearly 1 million US consumers encounter this threat. Lookout discovered this threat, called Spam Soldier, in partnership with a major carrier, and it's one of the largest Android SMS botnets ever found. Spam Soldier is primarily spread through SMS messages that advertise free versions of popular games, such as Angry Birds. The user clicks on a link from one of those SMS messages, and their phone downloads an application that claims to install the game. By opening that installer app, the user is activating Spam Soldier's Trojan. And once open, Spam Soldier gets to work. The app connects to a remote command and control server to receive its instructions. These include the SMS spam message and a list of 100 US phone numbers to spam. It then churns through that list as fast as the device allows. Once it's exhausted its list of phone numbers, it calls home to get a new list of 100 numbers, rinse and repeat until the command and control server either doesn't respond or the application is closed. We know of a single device that, when infected, sent over 16,000 messages. In May of 2012, we first reported on Not Compatible, a remote proxy threat that was distributed by hacked websites. In this specific attack, if a user visits a compromised website from an Android device, the web browser will automatically begin downloading an application. This process is commonly referred to as a drive-by attack or a drive-by download. When the suspicious application finishes downloading, the device will display a notification prompting the user to install the downloaded app. Not Compatible is an Android Trojan that appears to serve as a simple TCP relay or proxy while posing as a system update. It can be used to gain illicit access to private networks by turning an infected Android device into a proxy. Since the initial detection, we've continued to actively monitor Not Compatible, and it showed relatively low activity levels with occasional moderate spikes. That all changed in March of 2013 when we saw a sudden surge in detection once again, peaking at almost 20,000 detections per day over a period of about a week. It continues to be one of the most prevalent threats even 2 years later. As you know, there isn't a week that goes by without another high-profile security breach in the press. In the last 30 days, healthcare.gov, the Home Depot, iCloud, JP Morgan Chase, Dairy Queen, and the UPS stores, as well as the Russian hacking discovered by Hold Security, all within the last 30 days alone. With so much of your data now stored outside the confines of your perimeter security, and with all these threats, how do you secure this new mobile-first world? For starters, the security investment needs to shift. Today, the average enterprise spends $381 per employee per year on security, and only a fraction of that is dedicated to mobile. Yet in January of this year, we use smartphone and tablet apps more than PCs to access the internet. for the first time that's ever happened. Mobile devices accounted for 55% of internet usage in the United States in January. The shift follows a free fall in PC sales, which suffered their worst year in history last year. Smartphone adoption, meanwhile, increased 39%. This trend will likely continue thanks to the improved user experience on mobile apps and the expansion of high-speed 4G access. With millions of apps, tens of thousands added every day, the threat is impossible to manage unless we improve our ability to understand what's happening at scale. Traditional signature-based solutions are no longer effective. We need a new approach to threat detection and prevention that can operate on a massive scale and identify threats before they cause harm. That approach must harness big data and machine intelligence to give us instant visibility into what is actually going on across the network. For example, let me take you through a sample analysis of something the Lookout team recently discovered. This is a real app. We're going to break it down as we would at Lookout. It's a simple app, voice over IP app, found in a popular app store. At first glance, it looks safe, nothing major. The app wants to access all your contacts, but that makes sense because it's effectively a phone app. No existing malware signature match at all. And when we put it in a virtual environment, into a sandbox, it wasn't doing anything malicious. But by analyzing it on a global context and correlating against millions of apps, the story becomes much more complex. First, all Android application developers must cryptographically sign each new app they create. This digital signature is used to verify the application developer's identity, amongst other things. So in this real-world example, we determined that our voice over IP app in question shares a digital signature with a malware variant that's linked to a banking fraud, that is, a known banking Trojan. Further analysis revealed that the VoIP app is capable of communicating with an IP address of a server that is known to have been used by a malware variant from a second family. So with a simple IP address lookup, database lookup, we were able to geolocate that server someplace in Asia. Next, a binary similarity analysis revealed code similarity with that second malware family. Code similarity is not necessarily an exact match. Instead, you might call it a fuzzy code match, in which only a percentage of the code needs to show relationships and connections. It's like a genetic test that shows you're distantly related to someone. It's not an exact match, but it's a close one. For instance, genetic match can tell who your parents are, even though your DNA is not an exact match to either one of them. Now let's review what we know so far about this app. We know, one, that it's related to a malware variant that's linked to a banking fraud because it shares an encryption key. Two, we know it's related to a malware variant from a second family because it communicates with a common command and control server. And three, we know it contains software similar to that found in that same second malware family. So now remember, earlier we said that it had the ability to access your contact list. And that by itself is not unsafe. There's plenty of apps that can access your contact list. Gmail, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, to name a few. However, through this simple correlation, we have the context to see that it shares a server and a signer with no malicious software. It has similar code to a known malware family, and it has all your contacts. Is that something that you want on your enterprise network? Here's a visualization of the correlation that we just walked through. Through a massive data set, which encompasses the entire world of mobile activity, millions and millions of apps, we're able to dig deeper than ever before, correlating every app to every other app, looking for these behavioral similarities. Correlating everything in order to prevent the enterprise from being compromised before an attack takes place. What I just explained was a simplified version, a simplified look at a process that incorporates the power of big data combined with machine intelligence to hundreds of millions of data points all the time. here's how it looks in reality. A multi-dimensional correlation capable of tracking every app in innumerable ways. Digital signatures, network communications, fuzzy code matching, many more dimensions and many more techniques correlated across a global set of millions of unique apps all the time. This is how you change the power balance in favor of the good guys. In the past, the bad guys could evade antiquated forms of detection with very little cost. All they needed to do was change a few lines of code, and a signature-based defense was rendered ineffective. Because today, we can track the bad guys across so many dimensions, it's now very high cost for them to evade detection. And by leveraging the power of big data, it's low cost for us, the good guys. Our adversaries are doing everything they can to be unpredictable. They're constantly changing their tactics, which means that we as an industry must continually innovate to stay ahead. While this problem has grown more complex in this mobile-first, cloud-first world, defensive technologies like big data and machine intelligence are also becoming much more practical and cost-effective to deploy. In this perpetual race to stay ahead, success will go to the side capable of sustaining rapid cycles of innovation. Thank you very much.